Timur rose from nothing to become one of history's most fearsome conquerors, relying on raw intelligence and unbending will rather than royal birth. Born during the declining Chagatai Khanate, he grew up beside his father Turege, chief of the Barlas tribe in Transoxiana. A fellow tribesman, Kazgan, had clawed his way to the governorship of Samarkand, and young Timur began his military career by pledging loyalty to him. Kazgan recognized his talent and gave him a command, but Kazgan's assassination plunged Samarkand into chaos. The Chagatai Khan Tughlo Timur arrived to restore order, and it was here that Timur first won royal favor, joining the Khan's commanders. He steadily built influence, eventually rebelling against Chagatai rule and defeating the Mongols in a string of dangerous campaigns. Backed by the Chagatai emirs, he was proclaimed sovereign on a white felt carpet according to ancient Turkic custom. The Chagatai state collapsed, and a new empire rose in Timur's name. Within 15 years, this disciplined, calculating ruler had built an empire of staggering size. His first great target was the Golden Horde, which he shattered in 2 devastating campaigns that killed over 100,000 people. Khan Toktamish fled into the northern forests, and the horde's capital, Sarai, was razed. Without intending it, Timur had cleared the path for Russia's rise. Centuries later, Russians would mark his victory over Toktamish and entry into Moscow as a defining moment in their national memory. Next came Iran. When the Muzaffari dynasty imprisoned an envoy demanding their submission, Timur seized the pretext to invade. An uprising in Isfahan enraged his grandson Jahangir, who ordered every soldier to bring back an Iranian head. 70,000 died in a single massacre that terrified the rest of the country into submission within 7 years. Iraq came next. Jalayirid Sultan Ahmad, ruling from Baghdad, allied with the Mamluks and the Karakoyunlu, while stalling with gifts and envoys. Timur saw through the ruse, advanced on Baghdad, and Ahmad fled to Mamluk protection as the city fell. But as Western Islamic states began uniting against him, Timur withdrew to Samarkand, only for the Mamluk Sultan Berkuk to retake the region and restore Ahmad. Eager for revenge but distracted, Timur instead campaigned in India, slaughtering over 100,000 and conquering the north before returning home laden with plunder, convincing the wary Western alliance that his threat had passed. That same year, Berkuk's death threw the Mamluks into disarray, and Bayezid the Thunderbolt seized the opportunity to take the Mamluk city of Malatya and the vassal principality of Dulkadir, a move that made any future Mamluk-Ottoman alliance against Timur impossible, and one of Bayezid's costliest miscalculations. Timur's spies kept him informed of the deepening rift between the Mamluks and the Ottomans, and in 1399 he marched west from Samarkand to finish off both rivals separately. Sultan Ahmad and the Karakoyunlu's Kara Yusuf, sensing the campaign targeted them, fled first toward Mamluk territory, but the emirs of Aleppo and Hama turned them away. Bayezid the Thunderbolt took them in instead, granting Ahmad the governorship of Kütahya and Kara Yusuf that of Aksaray, a decision Timur would not forgive. As Timur advanced through Tabriz and conquered Georgia, the deposed Anatolian beys whose lands Bayezid had annexed, from Mentees, Saruhan, Jermian and Aydin, flocked to him pleading for their territories back. Timur initially defended Bayezid as a Ghazi who would not oppress without cause, but anti-Ottoman courts across Europe, including Genoa, France, Rome, and Castile, were already courting him, and he worked to win over wavering Anatolian lords like Kara Uluk Uthman Beg. Timur demanded that Bayezid hand over or execute Ahmad and Kara Yusuf. Bayezid, besieging Constantinople at the time, rejected the demand with open contempt, reportedly insulting Timur outright in his reply. Timur responded by marching on Sivas in July 1400, crushing an Ottoman relief force sent by Bayezid's son Celebi Mand along the way. After a fierce siege using catapults and mining, Sivas surrendered on a promise that no blood would be spilled. Timur kept his word about bloodshed, yet still had 4,000 people buried alive, and the city's storied fortress was leveled. Rather than push further into Anatolia, Timur held back, wary of how stubbornly Sivas had resisted and uncertain of Bayezid's true strength. He preferred to terrorize the region first and return later with overwhelming numbers. A Dulkadirid raid on his camp and the Mamluks' arrest of his envoy gave Timur fresh cause to ravage Elbistan and capture Malatya before crushing Mamluk forces at Aleppo and then Damascus, both cities suffering brutal sacking. Bayezid's attempt to forge a Mamluk alliance against Timur was rejected outright, the Mamluks distrusting his ambitions in Syria. Believing Timur would next strike Egypt and then turn on him, Bayezid massed troops at Kayseri, but Timur, unwilling to cross the Sinai, turned instead toward Baghdad, razzing it after hearing that his rebellious appointee Kara Yusuf was stirring unrest in Azerbaijan. Letters flew back and forth between the two rulers. Timur, invoking decades of jihad and demanding submission. Bayezid countering with the proud history of Osman's line and refusing to abandon those who had sought his protection. Both sides spoke of peace while preparing for war. Bayezid's own son-in-law, the revered scholar Emir Sultan, begged him to appease Timur and avoid a clash between Muslim Turks, while voices within Timur's camp, fearing the judgment of history, urged him not to attack a fellow warrior of the faith. Neither ruler's doubts changed the outcome. Once Timur's full strength had gathered at Tabriz, he issued his final terms: surrender of his rivals, the cession of 5 cities, a hostage prince, and total submission, terms Bayezid could never accept. Timur advanced on Erzincan with 160,000 men, swept through Sivas, and reached Ankara before Bayezid could intercept him, laying siege to the citadel. Bayezid, whose mostly infantry army numbered perhaps half Timur's strength, had hoped to ambush the cavalry-heavy Timurids in rugged terrain, but after fierce debate among his commanders, he marched directly on Ankara instead, pushing his exhausted troops to catch up. He arrived from an unexpected direction, catching Timur's army off guard and praying through the night for victory, yet when his sons and pashas urged an immediate strike on the disorganized enemy, Bayezid refused, insisting on waiting for Timur to assemble fully so the victory would be decisive. The chance was lost, and Timur used the delay to poison nearby water sources, leaving the already weary Ottoman troops parched before the fighting even began. On the battlefield, Bayezid held the center with the Janissaries, while his sons commanded the flanks, Suleiman and Hoca Firuz on the left, with Serbian allies under Stefan Lazarevic, Kara Timurtas Pasha on the right. Timur fielded a vastly larger force, backed by 32 war elephants. As the battle raged, the Ottoman flanks held their ground until disaster struck. The Kara Tatars suddenly defected to Timur, and soon after, soldiers from the conquered Anatolian principalities, recognizing their former beys fighting for Timur, abandoned the Ottomans en masse and turned on their own comrades. Bayezid's center fought on doggedly, even as elephants trampled his light infantry and Janissary archers cut them down. But with both flanks collapsing under betrayal, his commanders began fleeing the field one by one. By evening, only 10,000 Janissaries remained around the Sultan, surrounded on a hilltop by 7 times their number. They vowed to die before letting harm reach him, and in a final desperate charge to break free, Bayezid's horse was struck down and he was captured. Brought before Timur, who was playing chess in his tent, Bayezid reportedly rebuked him for smiling at a captive's misfortune. Timur replied that he was laughing only at how fate had left the world to a one-eyed man and a lame one. Some 50,000 men had died on each side in one of history's great pitched battles. Timur's forces swept on to sack and burn Bursa, seizing Bayezid's family and treasury, while the old Anatolian beys reclaimed the territories Bayezid had stripped from them, and Ottoman holdings in the Balkans contracted sharply. Bayezid, already unwell before his capture, died in custody on March 9, 1403, at just 47. Timur is said to have mourned him as a fallen hero, sending his body to Bursa for burial and releasing his captured family before withdrawing east with his plunder. He himself died only months later while marching on China. His sprawling empire collapsed soon after his death, but the Ottoman state he had nearly destroyed rebuilt itself from these ashes to become the dominant power of its age.